Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and this video is going to be tackling a topic in Final Fantasy XIV that I feel like I've just seen it more recently, but I know it's always been around, and it's kind of about the hard-headedness of the party finder in Final Fantasy XIV. I don't want to say the raid scene as a whole, because I really see this more in the party finder than anywhere else, but this has been something that I feel like has been brewing for a very long time, and something that I, of course, have actually, if anything, fueled or even hurt in the past with the way that I've approached guide making. So I want to actually tackle the topic in sort of a rant rambling about what I've seen, what I'd like to see in the future, especially going into Endwalker, and just a little bit of advice for anyone who might be finding themselves in the trap that I'm about to be describing. So in my earlier days of guide making, one of my principles in guide making was that I didn't want to just copy whatever was the most popular strategy. I didn't want to just use what seemed to be used by other groups. I wanted to use whatever the group I was currently in was successful. Now, that didn't mean it was optimal, that didn't mean it was the best way and that everyone should do it that way, but it felt a lot better as a creator to be, well, working on creating something. It was never a solo effort. It was always with the 7 other people that I was working with, and, you know, we would usually fine-tune it in the weeks to come and maybe change things here or there, but that week 1 strat was always the first thing that I would present in either a kill video or in an official guide. And I would see this all the time, where people would often try to pug content and specifically reference a strategy of mine that was in video format. It didn't matter if the strategy was the best strat, it didn't matter if a better one had come out, if new things had been learned, or anything along those lines. There was like this persistence of like, I learned it this way, this is the way I know, I've actually done it this way, I've won, and thus I no longer need to approach learning the encounter. And it's never been something I enjoyed, but I've never had control over it. I can't tell someone, I can't put out another video and then say, do it different. Because people they're already in that mentality. They're already stuck in that, I've learned it this way. There's no point in me learning another way. I'm not going to do it, even though the same person said that there's a new way to do it. And so I always like to believe I never had that much influence over the party finder, that it was really just a few people. But over the years, I mean, I saw it over and over again. And I really noticed it a lot this expansion. Now, it wasn't specifically with me that I noticed it this expansion, although there is one case where I did notice these kind of conversations happening relevant to content that I had made. But people were taking a lot of week 1 strategies for things like, you know, the first tier of Eden, the second tier. Most prominently is the Ilya strategy for E8 Savage, you know, one of the early strategies that this team came up with. They were able to clear it. It makes sense. It follows all the rules and it can lead to a successful result. But yet there was this insane amount of malice towards this individual who was just creating a guide, who was creating a strategy that, while, yeah, something else better may have come out later, it became the butt of so many jokes. It became this huge argument about, you know, whether or not you should do this or that. And I had then realized that that had actually been happening all expansion. I remember Titania, I remember Ruby Weapon, all the discussions that went on along those things that I had even participated in. And that, you know, I agreed or disagreed. It didn't matter. Ultimately, it came down to Party Finder Leader picks this, you choose whether or not you want to join it. And it really doesn't matter because the scaling in this game is never so exact that those things are really that important. But that doesn't stop the party finder from kind of still following that mentality of learning something and latching onto it. And obviously the most recent example becomes Happy Brambles, which, newsflash, wasn't my strategy actually. It just happened to be the strategy that our group landed on collectively. There's at least 3 people's input that led into the way we ended up doing that. And even worse, I wasn't going to put that in a guide initially. We had cleared the fights we had cleared, you know, whatever. We posted our kill VODs for the first day. And I said, okay, those are our week 1 strats. You know, I think nobody's going to really want to use those. That's fine. And then I woke up day 2 of Prague in 5.4, and I saw that my E9S clear video, not a guide, my clear video had almost 50,000 views. And I went, oh no, that's too many people. That means everyone's doing it in the party finder. And I'm like, you know what? It's fine. It's an okay strat. People will figure out better things. But even still, up to like two weeks ago, I still get messages about that strategy. I got a message about a month and a half ago in game. I could report this person where they said, I wish you had died before Shadowbringers had come out, so I wouldn't have to do Happy Bramble. That was in game. Somebody typed that. That's insane that somebody felt that much malice to send me a message while I was sitting there doing nothing. I wasn't even live at the time when it happened. I have had stuff like that happen while I'm live. But it's like, oh man, I didn't. It's such an eye opener and such an addition of perspective, because I don't try to do that much Party Finder content. I like to imagine that people see something, learn it, understand it, but then when something better comes along, they learn that. And I encourage that. If you're using my strategy, hey, newsflash, we stopped using it 3 weeks into our prog, and we use a completely different strat. A combination of strats that have been come up by Zeno, Rin, the people who really push, balls to the wall on figuring out better or more optimal strategies. Not just uptime, straight up easier to perform, better strategies. I want people to update their way of thinking. And it's then that I realized why this happens. And it was then that I came to the realization that when people learn in Final Fantasy XIV how to clear a fight, that is all they are learning. How do I go from the boss having 100% HP to the boss having 0% HP? And it made sense. I started remembering all the different comments and guides over the time. Don't explain to me what happens if you get hit. Don't explain to me how the mechanic works. Just tell me where to stand and how I will win. There was a lot of that, and it's still present. People aren't actually learning how the fights work. They're not learning how a mechanic works. They just want to know what will win the fight. And that is why I feel the Party Finder for us over in NA, I won't speak for the other data centers, is stuck in this, I won't budge, I won't learn. You have to be forced it. It's like either it's the only way anyone's doing it in the Party Finder and you have to learn it, or that's it, or you just don't. They just don't make any effort to do it. And that's wild to me, because over all of the years, the thing I always valued most in the content creation, that other than making sure the strat wasn't just copying somebody else's, but it was also making sure that everyone understood as much about it as possible. Now, it also, of course, meant I made mistakes, because I was trying to go into so much detail that I was bound to make a mistake here or there. And I made more than a few. I've owned up to that over the years. But, oh, man, I don't know how I didn't put the pieces together after all that time. People, I want to say this now. If you're somebody who's learning raids in Final Fantasy XIV, if you're somebody who's trying to successfully beat a fight, if you're someone who wants to come up with a way to win, one of the keys is understanding how the fights actually work, what a mechanic actually does. And sometimes you won't need to know every detail. Sometimes it's a detail really only the tanks need to know. Maybe only the healers really need to know it. But whatever role it is, you probably need to at least know how those work in the way that they function. I remember even in 5.4 with the static I was playing with, there were people who 2-3 weeks in who were still like, I don't know how this mechanic works. I just do what you guys tell me to do. And I'm like, but why? That's happened to me in multiple raid tiers where people just go, they're like, I need an ACT trigger for it, or I wait for the call out because I don't actually know how it works. And I realized that was not uncommon. And it actually confused me. I was like, wait, we've been doing this for how long? How do you not know how it works? And I realized that's it. It's in more places than I thought it was. So this is a plea from me to you, to the Party Finder, to the Raiders, at least here in North America. If you see a strategy and you then see that there's a better one, take the effort and learn the better one. But in the process, learn how it works, because you might be someone who's capable of making these guides. You might be someone who's capable of finding those big galaxy brain strats, but you're not taking the time to learn. You're not taking the time to understand. And for me, that's such a valuable thing, because if you learn and understand a mechanic, then when a new strategy comes out, you understand why it works, and it's easier to pick up and it's easier to adapt. And it's a skill that I just want to see more of in the Party Finder, or want to see more of out of the raid scene for Final Fantasy XIV. Another thing, North America, we got to start using macros, man. My macros are going to look ugly. I would love to make macros for some of those guide videos. They're going to look horrible. People make beautiful, beautiful macros. They're so much easier than the way that we do pre-fight assignments. You can even hit them in the middle of the fight to remind people what to do and where to go. And it's so good. We need to adapt macros. Please. I had a time in Emerald Weapon where somebody used the macro. I was so excited. And then the tank called H1 as a spot. I was like, no, we're doomed. We're never going to get it. It's never going to work in NA. No, we really need to get it working. So, dramatic effect aside, we need to get it working. But that's just a video. I just wanted to rant and ramble about it a little bit because it was bugging me. And it was something that I've actually been talking about a lot on stream as of late. So here's a video of it. With that, I got a fishing boat to catch soon. So I'm going to go do that. Thanks everyone for watching this video, listening to it, whatever you want to consider, whatever the hell that just was. And I'll see you all in the next one. Enjoy. And until then, take care.